Well, hello, Doug Robinson here again. It's time for another selling point. Today, let's spend a couple of minutes talking about the topic of selling the difference. If you're a hockey fan at all, you know the name Wayne Gretzky. You know, he's the greatest hockey player of all time. And he was famous for saying that you should always skate to where the puck is going and not to where it is now. And as salespeople, that makes sense because we've got to do the same thing. You're going to get customer pushback about pricing for all time's sake when you're in sales. So since you're going to continue to hear your price is too high, you ought to realize that when somebody says that to you, whether they're a commercial buyer or a residential prospect, that what they're telling you is that you're too high compared to something else. So, you know, there's one of two things that could be. Either it's too high compared to what they thought they were going to have to spend, thank you, Internet, or they're saying it's too high compared to a competitor's quote that they have already received. So what you need to do then is you need to establish the difference between your price and either their perception or the quote that they got. So first off, to do that, you need to establish what is the difference between those two things. And, you know, if somebody's wanting to get the best price out of you, that usually they'll tell you what the quote is. They won't sit back there like it's a mystery. And so you might even ask the question of, well, have you already, you know, gotten a quote from somebody else and mine sounds out of line? Help me out a little bit here. And normally somebody would say, well, yeah, I got a quote from ABC Company and yours is $500 more, or, you know, whatever the scenario is. Or if it's a residential prospect, they may very well say, if they don't have what you're selling, they may very well say, well, I didn't have any idea it was going to cost this much. So either way, you begin to sort of formulate where you are. So first off, establish what that difference is. And then once you know what that difference is, that's really all you have to sell. You know, if you're selling a $5,000 service or a $5,000 product, you don't have to sell the $5,000. All you have to do is sell the $500, if that's the case, difference between the competitor and between what your price is. So once you establish that, then just focus on the $500 difference and start to cite some benefits and some features that your service or your product has that are going to be different or could even be unique or exclusive to your company. And then once you cite those benefits to the customer, then you want to tell them a little bit about how that's going to work and a little bit about how that's going to make them feel. And that's the difference between a logical and an emotional benefit. And people buy with emotion and then they justify with logic. So don't forget that the emotional aspect of that's going to be the most important thing that they're going to want to hear, and they're going to make their initial decision based on that. So one step more is to go beyond that and tell them how what you're talking about and what you're proposing to them will eliminate some risk in their home or in their business, depending on what you're selling. And for instance, it may be an example of maybe what you have that you know for a fact is an exclusive. Is you might say, well, you know, don't forget now that our product comes with a no questions asked 30-day money-back guarantee, and then after that 30 days, there's a 10-year replacement guarantee if something were to happen and the product were to break down or to quit working properly or whatever that might be. Now, that's going to reduce a lot of your risk because you won't have the downtime that you're having now. You mentioned to me that you're having some downtime problems with breakdowns. And so you certainly, the what I'm talking about is going to be less risky for you. And I know in business that reduced risk is a big thing. So don't forget that. Now, depending on what you're selling, maybe a demonstration would be appropriate. And so anytime you can demo something, remember that a picture is worth 1,000 words, but a demonstration is worth $1,000. And so people like to see demos where they're appropriate. So use that to wow them. And then when you've done all that, then simply check for their acceptance if they agree with what you've had to say. So ask them a closed question that they'll have to just simply answer yes or no to. Well, sir or ma'am, based on what we've just discussed here, do you feel like what I'm proposing to you is going to be the better option for your business? And either they're going to say yes, and if they do, you say, okay, great, let's get a shipping date lined up for you, or let's get an installation date set up. If they say no, then you need to go back and run another lap and kind of pick your way through that and find out why they didn't see it your way. And during that process, at somewhere along the line, don't forget the old maxim of the bitterness of poor quality is going to remain long after the sweetness of a low price has been long forgotten. So with those things in mind, then hopefully you'll be able to win more sales and not worry about selling the price tag that's on your product or service, but rather just establishing the difference and just bear down and sell the difference. Again, Doug Robinson here, RobinsonTrainingSolutions.com. Go check out my book. It will certainly help you. 116 topics that are strategies and common sense ideas that will help you sell more and sell better. Till next time, see ya.